Who likes £40 carp then? If you do, you are in luck, as this film features not one, not two, but 3 of them, 2 of which were caught in the same session by none other than my good friend, Corder and monster carp superstar, Neil Spooner. He is a lovely old boy, and sharing that moment with him, seeing those carp on the bank, was pretty magic. We've got it all on film, and I can only hope that by the end of this film, you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed being there. Get stuck in. Arthur, we're going to help Neil. We're going to help Uncle Neil. Three in the bed and the little one said. Hauling.
Lovely start to the morning.
What do you reckon, mister? He's not going to be happy when he has to give that spot to Arthur, to Neil.
Is that yours? There was tears.
Right, so we're going to let a couple of them go, are we, yeah?
Yeah, gonna let the smaller 2 go.
Yeah, good luck with that. There's one.
A bit bigger, probably.
Yeah, he's mid-double, isn't he? Easy. This is the bigger one. Let's get him out. Arthur, feel free to steal anything you like, mate. What's he got? Oh.
Uh-oh. A cup of tea, please, Daddy.
Arthur, be patient. Oh, grumpy boy. It's a fishy. It's not looking good for Arthur as a fisherman, is it?
Not really. Oh, he's a banger.
He's a nice one, isn't he? What do you reckon, Arthur?
Nope.
No good? Not bothered?
Nope.
No, he's definitely 23, 24 at least, isn't he? Lovely bit of lens flare in the top there. Look. Ooh. He's a nice colour, to be fair and all. Ooh, my battery's about to run out. Had 35%, that did. Good work, Neil. Shall I put something on the story, maybe?
Oh yeah, do you want to take a picture of your phone?
Yeah.
Well, back on Northwyke at a time when that big, long, scaly freak is actually due to get caught. I've just seen a fish show. I'm going to get my zig back over there. Hopefully get a bite for you. Hopefully get the bite for you. Tiny bit short of where that fish showed. I know it's a zig, so you just want to be in the general area, but you still want it to land exactly where you want it to land. Well, second time lucky. Come on. Oh yeah. Oh, there's one right on the other zig. I've just had a recast on my sort of open water zig, and I'm just getting it down to the height that I've been getting bites at. So it's a case of getting the hook bait just on the surface. I've got a foot marker on my rods. I know exactly how far to wind it down into the zone I've been catching from. So that one is now at depth, and it's in an area where I've just seen a fish show. And whilst I've been doing that one, I've got a rod tucked into the bay where I caught from yesterday, and one has just shown back in that zone. So all of a sudden, two shows in completely separate parts of the lake, but I feel like I've got them both covered. Come on, Ziggs. Come on, the monkey. Hey, Elliot, come on, the monkey. Your favourite. Good guy. It's actually really nice to see the lake like this, because I missed last spring due to COVID. It's the first time literally in 2 years that I've seen water around this back channel. Now, you've heard me reference the place that James's lives when there's water in here, and he does, but he tends to do a capture out in the main lake. His first capture in spring is often out there, that's why I'm fishing out there, obviously. But once that capture's done, he gets in here, sulks for the best part of 3 months, and then all through that time, this is being used as an irrigation place, so the water level is gradually going down, and it's like it gets to a certain level and he knows he's got to get out, otherwise he's going to get trapped. And once he's then back out in the main bowl, that's when he gets caught. And the weird thing is, for a fish that's so big, lots and lots of people have fished in here during that spell after he's been caught in the spring. You can see him nearly all the time, but I can think of 2 captures coming from here, and they've both come right at the end of that sort of early summer spell, just before he heads out into the main lake. There's definitely that signal that he knows, and he knows he then heads back out and does that flurry of captures. I just hope, obviously, that my name's on it this spring. He's going to look pucker. His first capture of the year is when he always looks his absolute best, and I would dearly love it to be mine then. But if not, once he's caught, I'll leave, go elsewhere for a few months, and then as long as my sort of filming commitments allow it, I'll be back on here again in the autumn, trying to finally finish the jigsaw. Keep going though, he ain't winning. I'm just repositioning one of my zigs. I had a bite yesterday, tucked right up in the corner of this little bay, and with this sun out, being out of the wind, I'm convinced they're going to turn back up in the same zone. So rather than having to cast when they're already there and risk spooking them, get it set, wait for the carp to turn up. Now, lots of people say that they get adjustable zigs tangling, but lots of them don't do that. It's all on the packaging, but you're securing your hook bait against the float. When that hits the water, that instantly comes off and they separate. And then so you have to slowly pay your float up. If you try to go too quickly, that is obviously far more buoyant than my little bit of foam, and then you risk another tangle if you just open your bail arm and wait. So pay it off a little bit like you would if you were using a marker float, watch for it to hit the surface, and then you can work out how far down you want to present it. Just want it a little bit tighter in than that. Very deep bay, so you've got to allow for the swing back, and that would have come back towards me quite a lot at that range. Got to get it right. Right, it's in position, just slowly letting the line off, literally one turn of the spool at a time. Just give it a little bit of breathing space between each one, and that just allows the hook bait to maintain its distance from the float. And it's now on the surface. Right, now that's on the surface, it's just a case of getting the rod in position on the rest, then slowly tighten until that just disappears out of sight, like that. And then I can start to work it back down so that my bait is touching the surface. And then I can work it down and then start to get it into position, obviously, under the surface. And now my hook bait is pretty much sat perfectly on top. Because I know the exact length of my hook link, I've wound it down and I know that my bait is essentially just touching the surface. And now it's a case using the foot marker, and I'm going to work it down to the depth that I caught from yesterday. If I start to see fish higher in the water, it's very, very easy just to move it up or down. Coming out of winter and into the early part of spring, for me, that's when zigs come absolutely into their own. Fish start to bob up, they start to feel the heat of the sun for the first time. And if you're not investigating them upper layers and just fishing on the bottom, I think you're wasting a lot of time. This particular lake is very, very deep, so adjustable zigs come into their own. You can really work that. That upper third primarily is where you tend to get bites from. And trust me, you get them in the right position, you can turn a tricky lake. You can often have a hit of fish. Now, a little addition that I started to make to my zig fishing a couple of years ago was the inclusion of a couple of dendrobinas onto my hook bait. Now, the way you do it, you thread a little bit of floss actually through the top of your foam. So you put your foam hook bait on as normal, thread the floss through using a bait needle, take a couple of worms, obviously the juiciest ones in the box, and then you essentially have to thread that worm along a bait needle. So you concertina it in and out, thread one on either side of your floss that's hanging around, and then you simply tie it up in a few granny knots. And what you essentially get is a little bit of foam with what looks like a brain of worms on the top, but the goodness that they ooze out, that little bit of movement, trust me, it gets you bonus bites. She's deep. It's going to be surprising how far that swung back. That's all right. There's the worm, just hit the surface. There's the float. Yeah, mate, that's in the zone. That's fucking right in the zone. That hook bait can't be any more than about 5 foot from him. It's that little explosion of bubbles. I've kept my eyes peeled on this bay because the fish have been spending a lot of time in here, and yesterday, early afternoon, I started to notice the first few moving into the area. So I positioned a couple of zigs in, sort of all day, changing the depth, trying to instigate a bite, and nothing really happened until coming into the evening when I repositioned a zig, got the depth obviously spot on, because within a few minutes of it being in position, I had a lovely common called Vivs at 32.5 pound. Now, what's more exciting is that today it's going exactly the same. Whilst it doesn't look very warm, because it isn't, when that sun comes out and the wind just drops a little bit, instantly you can feel the temperature go up. As soon as I started looking in there again, when that sun was out, there was 2 fish just patrolling the back margin. So the zigs are set. Like I said, I got them in position before I anticipated the carp turning up, and so far it's going to plan. Just need to get the right depth, and hopefully we can get another one. Just wait for them noises to stop beeping.
What did they say? What did I say?
They're
beeping.
they're about to land, but they're furious. They didn't want to be filmed, so he's just talking to Dave about it. He's like, "We'll go back the other way, get in the other side of the lake." Are you waiting for me to talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not about the geese.
Okay. Wind in it. Okay.
7 nights. Is it?
Wow, this is angry. It was very small. Whoa. Oh, it's just come off. That was weird. Still razor sharp, that. There are a lot of very big perch in here, and I've had the odd one on, if you like, carp tactics. I'm just wondering if that's what that was. There was no real weight there, but the speed it was darting across, I can't believe that was a carp. Could have been though. Hook is still razor sharp. With a kamakura, if you hook a carp, that's normally the point done. The fact it isn't, and the fact that there was no weight and it was moving super quick, just lends me to think it was just one of the very big perch that are in here. Never know now, where will we? Now I'm going to be honest, I got to do very little fishing over at Northwyke last year with COVID getting in the way of spring, and then I lost the buzz for it a bit. When I did come back on, I did a little bit in July, a tiny bit in August, but the water level was really low at the time, and yeah, like I say, I'd lost the buzz, and I started to think if I was even going to renew my ticket. I know it sounds weird to say, because I've always been quite stubborn. When it comes to a particular carp, if I've really set my heart on catching it, then nothing's going to stop until it's in the album. But I was looking at it low in water, wasn't looking particularly appealing, and I sort of went away and had to go and do back end of the year, had to do quite a lot of filming commitments, and ironically it would have been the perfect time to have a go, could I have been able to, because it actually did. It's normal. It missed its spring capture because we couldn't fish for it at the time that it normally gets caught, but then it did its mad flurry at the back end of the year, and one guy caught it a couple of times, my mate Terry caught it, and there's two separate members, two Brads, they both caught it, so it did 5 captures in probably a 2.5 month period, and I just feel if I could have put a bit of time in then, that was probably the golden opportunity. But never mind, I couldn't get here then, it wasn't possible. And I started to weigh up what I was going to do, and then if you like, I think it was the 3rd lockdown that came in, which meant that from January to March, I think it was, we weren't allowed to do nights and you had to stay local, and Northwyke started to play on my mind. I knew a couple of people were doing the odd day and a few carp were getting caught. Then I found out that it had been filled up, and before long the burning desire was back to get back to the lake. Wanted to bide my time though. We had another episode of Monster Carp to finish off the season to film in April, and I had it in my mind that once I'm back from that and I've quarantined, coming towards the end of April, there would have been about the sort of 2.5 weeks through, you start to think that he's going to get caught. That early spell in May is the time that he's got a real track record for slipping up for the first time. So last week I managed to get down for my first trip, booked a little bit of holiday at work so I could have a full 48 hours down here. Bearing in mind that he often gets caught in the daytime, it was important to not just have the nights, but to have then daytime spells as well. So I got down here on what was at the time quite a warm day. I got onto the back of the wind. If you're in the teeth of it, it felt horrible, but I got into a swim called the Brambles. Again, its last 2 spring captures have both come from that area. And and Aaron was on, another one of the members. He was over in the cherry tree, I think, and I saw him. I was just getting set up and I saw him come to have a little look in the point, and as it turns out there was loads of fish in the bay, and I thought I might have made a mistake, but James has never really been one that gets caught with all the other fish. He tends to get caught on his own, so even though I couldn't see anything in front of me, I still felt confident, and I had it in my head that for that period I was just going to go and use zigs. I wanted to. James has never actually been caught on a zig, but I think that's partly because not many people fish them. And yeah, like I say, without that track record of lots of people doing it at the right time, he's never going to get caught on one. And the last spring that I did, I had a real good spell. Just one session where I think I had 6 or 7 bites on them, and had a couple of the lake's real big ones too. So I decided to, rather than fish with pop-ups on the deck over a little bit of bait, targeting James the way he often gets caught, I would instead go back to my old way and try to catch as many as possible. And there's 2 reasons behind that. It might be that in a week or so's time I do go back to fishing on the bottom, but the way I view it is the more fish that can get hooked by me, by all the other members, the less chance there is of those getting caught, and the more chance that your bait's sitting there for a bit longer for James to slip up. So I went in with an adjustable zig approach based on track record, if you like. And it wasn't long before I started to see a few carp drifting around in front of me. Funnily enough, the same group that we'd seen in front of the point. So I was adjusting my zigs for the first bite, and I got it to about 1.5 foot under the surface. I was fishing much lower than that, and all of a sudden I could see the carp as clear as day. Got it up to 1.5 foot, and it was probably at that depth for no more than half an hour when I had my first bite back. Nice fight, didn't last forever, did a bit under the rod tips. When you've got a big lead sort of swinging around and a size 8 hook, you just take a little bit more time. You don't try and beef it in. It's only an 8-pound hook link as well. But I pretty soon had a lovely little mirror in the net, one I had caught before, called Georgia, actually named after the guy that runs a syndicate car. It's named after his daughter. So a nice welcome back, just over 22 pound, happy days. Went into the night very confident. I'd had a couple out of here on zigs at night, so it wasn't a massive surprise. I think it was about 5:15 in the morning. I've had a little bite, just a few bleeps on one of the zigs out in open water. And this fish did a big old kite round to my left. Remember it coming back round again, and I sort of saw it roll. It was still dark, it was a really thick foggy morning, so I couldn't see too much. But just by the roll, it was close enough that I could see it was a good one. Zigs at night. Still don't really make sense to me. Well, I had him in a line. I had one 6 foot, 5 foot, and 4 foot under the surface. And just like a couple of springs ago, the last spring I fished, 5 foot under again. He's taking some line now, the boy. Honestly, it felt weird at first. I thought I might have a tufty on or something. It didn't really, I was just reeling it in, but if it's a tufty on the end, I'm not so sure I want to land it. I was actually laying there awake, listening. Haven't heard a thing, but I heard a delkin. As you can probably see, I'm full on carpy now, no bivvy. Thick pea soup fog, everything is probably saturated. But I'm carpy now, so, you know, just got to deal with it sometimes. Which one are you? Oh, who cares? Because you're mine. That is a big carp.
Oh my Jesus Christ.
That is, no it's not. That is Princess Leia. I was talking yesterday, I have caught a lot of the fish in here, and I said if there's one of the fish that I've caught out of here before that I'd love to catch again, it's a fish called layer. Now I caught it a few years ago, went down here with mainline off the top at 33 pound, and it looked amazing, but it went from strength to strength. And I think at one point last year, sure it was 45 pound. It's the one I've got in the net. It's got to be a 40 pounder. Look at it. Just looking at it in the net, I could see how big it was. It's a mega carp, lovely linear, and up on the scales in the morning it went 45 and a quarter. It's actually the second biggest carp I've ever caught in England, so yeah, a really, really nice welcome back. It's a tank of a carp. Days. Look at you. Oh my God, it's gone round there. $45.4. Good in fucking hell. Oh my God. £45, 4 ounces. What an amazing fish. Now, I have had it before, but I said it's one I'd love to catch again because it's a full 12 pound bigger than when I had it 3 years ago, and it's just like, it's like a different animal. What an absolute buzz. Never ignore zigs in the spring. Sweet. Happy? Sweet. Happy? Want some water shots, shall we?
Yep.
Look at you. You set, yeah?
Yep.
Can we move around a little bit?
Yes, you can. Come around a little bit.
Like that.
Perfect.
We'll just go for a quick lift and kiss and see what we get, okay? Like a pro. It's gone back fighting fit, that's all that really matters. I weren't going to try, it was... we took some nice photos and I said, oh, we'll get some water shots before we return it. I've literally got down in the deck, and as I've lifted it out of the sling, I had 2 bleeps on one of the rods, and I could just sort of lean around and have a look. Same rod, bobbing up, you know, it was just on an adjustable zig. The bites are often that, just the bobbin hitting the top. Played this fish in, and at first I thought it was another repeat capture. I thought it was a fish called the glass lin. It's really, really similar, but it actually turned out to be a fish called the pretty lin, one I've not had before. 33 pound. Thought lovely. It's got to be close.
I've definitely had worse Wednesday mornings. That's a 33 pounder. Look at that. That is a fish known as the glass lin. The last fish was a linear. James has got some scales down his lateral flank as well, down his lateral line.
To be fair, did another 24 hours after that and didn't have a bleep. The fish really moved over to the other side wholesale, but a lovely welcome trip back. 3 fish on the bank, 1 I'd not caught before, topped by a mega mid-40. And that brings us up to this week. I've taken a bit more holiday. I've got 3 nights in front of me, or I did have. I've done a couple of them now. And once again, I've been lucky enough to get amongst the fish. I'm on the opposite side of the lake now, where those fish seem to disappear to after I'd hooked them last week. And I've managed a couple. I've had a fully scaled that was only stocked, I think it was put in about 2.5 years ago. Cole likes to try and, like every year, every 2 years, a couple of new fish get added. And it is literally, it's the most fully scaled carp I've ever caught. There literally isn't one out of place. There's not a blank bit of skin anywhere. Just over 25 pound.
Well, look at that. Not only is that the fulliest fully scaled I've ever caught, just over 25 pound, but it's another one that I've not had. It's actually quite a young fish for the lake. It was only put in a couple of years ago. Mwah. One last little look, thank you, mate.
And then to bring you completely up to date, I had one yesterday afternoon into evening as well. Just been moving the zigs around all day. They've been fishing this bay, and no matter what I did, I don't know if I wasn't getting the depth right, whether they just weren't in the mood, but I kept tweaking 2 zigs, and just as I thought the time had gone, they're going to be going out into the main lake for the night, the right hand rod wrapped round, and I'll be honest, it got me quite excited for quite a while, because I was playing it for probably, it must have been 15 minutes, and I hadn't seen it that whole time. It was just staying deep, big plumes of bubbles coming up, and the longer a fight goes on, you start to think, what if, just what if? And at first, when a common popped up, I was a little bit gutted. It's a bit like that now. I really want to catch James's, but got it in the net. It was a fish called Viv's, again, one I have had before, but not for a long time, but I'd never had it over 30 pounds, so 32.5.
As I suspected when it was in the net, it is a fish known as Viv's. I have caught it before, but not for 3 years. Another one that I caught off the surface, but it's the first time I've had it at over 30 pound, 32.5. I'd only just repositioned the rod. Been out there 5 minutes, and the old tip went round like a quiver tip. Lovely. Mwah. Do you, mate? Go on, mate. Oh, that's sitting under a branch, are you?
Again, it's nice to be ticking these fish off again. I've got one night in front of me now. Weather's changed a lot. It's much colder, but I've got the best part of 24 hours left. I'd like to think there's at least one more bite on the cards. Let's hope so anyway. Well, where do I begin? I guess Northwyke, because that's the last time you saw me. Had a really, really enjoyable spring. I really got the buzz back for the place, and was really surprised that James's still hadn't been caught. Between me and the other members, you know, we'd literally ticked off almost every single fish in the lake, and occasionally seeing James's. I saw him once. I know Luke saw him a couple of times. So he was definitely in and around with the bulk of fish, but yet again showed his uniqueness by avoiding getting caught. I knew that I had quite a bit of filming work and a bit that I had to get done from late May and early into June. So I booked myself one last long session. I had a 3-nighter ahead of me, and it started off a bit of a nightmare actually. I knew I wanted to probably get in the brambles or the point because they command the right bit of water, as you all know by now. So unless I'd see anything different, that would be where I'd head into one of those. I knew that the Apsey was in the point, was in brambles, so I was going to get into the point. But I got chatting to Dovey at work for a little bit too long, ended leaving late, and by the time I got there, Anthony had already dropped onto the point, so I had to find somewhere else to fish. But I dropped into the conifers, decent swim, and I knew that having 3 nights ahead of me, the chances are I would get to move if I needed to. So I guess the long and short of it is I blanked for 24 hours. The other 2 guys left by about 5 or 6 o'clock the following evening, so then I had an empty lake, and it's always a bit of a dilemma, which one do I go into? And I honestly think it fishes better when both of those swims are taken. So I decided to go onto the point because there'd been a lot of fish showing in the little bay round to my right, and I felt that there would definitely be some carp still hanging around in there. Got it wrong. Woke up early the following morning, not a bleep, sat there for quite a while, and I think at about 6:15 saw a fish show over in Brambles water, very quickly followed by another couple. So I started to pack away, and by the time I was on my toes, there'd been 7 fish show short of the island, not right up tight, but out in a real comfortable fishing zone. So I've got round into Brambles, and pretty quickly I'd got a few rigs out there, put a little bit of bait out. It felt nice to be fishing on the bottom again. No zigs for the first time. They were showing, you could see they were going down. There was this massive new wind that had blown up, and they were very much enjoying it. So got myself set, and had what can only be described as, it can't be quite described as the perfect send-off from sort of my spring on Northwyke, but it was a pretty close second. And the only reason it wasn't perfect is because James wasn't amongst the fish I caught, but I'm jumping ahead of myself a bit. So I'd been in the swim for a couple of hours. I've had a bite on one of the rods, and I had a fish that I believe is now known as Big Owl, a fish I had before. It's a fish that's grown on in the lake. I think I'd had it at about 16 pound, but it looked proper plump, and it was 26.2 it went, so over the moon. Yes, it was a repeat, but when you've not had anything for 48 hours, or the best part of 48 hours, that little bite just gives you that confidence that you need. So I've got that, got some self-takes done, and away it went. Later that afternoon, I've had a bite towards the island again. Felt like a decent fish, quite a dogged scrap the whole way in. And when it first rolled, I thought it was a fish called the box because it was quite grey in colour, and there's not many in there like that. But once I eventually landed it, I realised that obviously it wasn't him because it wasn't 40 pound. And I recognised it, but couldn't quite put my my finger on the name, but it was a fish called the dab. And one I'd not had, 31.12 it was, got a wicked dink in its tail, got a few random little scales in a sort of weird line down its flank, a real cool character. And one that was nice to tick off because, like I said, I'd not had it before. Before I'd even got the pictures done, my right hand rod went off, and had it's an absolute nightmare. It's managed to get under one of my other lines, do me solid in weed. I've had to go out in the boat. I'm getting blown in this massive wind over to the aerator pump in the corner. The fish has gone underneath it. I'm trying to hand line it in while still connected to the other rod. It was an absolute nightmare. And I could see what fish it was. I knew it was one that I'd not had. Thankfully, someone was smiling down on me because I managed to get it in the net somehow, and a fish called the Day Trip Mirror. So because it was getting close to dark, I thought I want to get my rods quickly resorted. I want to get them absolutely spot on for the night, ready for that early morning. Rude, isn't it? Wanted to get ready for that early morning bite time, so I've got them done quickly. It wasn't very far out, so it wasn't too much of a big deal. A little bit more bait out in the zone, and done some self-takes of those fish as well. So I went to bed incredibly happy, thinking, wasn't expecting anything through the night, if I'm honest. It's not the best of night waters, but I thought early morning I might get that chance. Anyway, I think it was about midnight, maybe 1 o'clock, had another bite. Thought it was a real good, and I couldn't do anything with it. It took so much line on the initial run. I didn't really think it was James's, I'm going to be honest, because from from what I've been told, certainly not through experience, it doesn't really put up too much of a ruck. So whilst I thought it was a good one, I didn't think it was one of the real good ones. And eventually I got a fish into net, didn't really recognise, turned out to be one of the 3 stormtroopers and another one that I've not caught. So 3 bites on the spin, couple of 30s and a big 20. I've never had them before. So like I say, it was the perfect last session, but I had the following day to enjoy. So in the morning, everything was looking nice. Someone else turned up, the rods were set, and I've had a real slow bite on the right hander. Literally, the bobbin just crept to the top. I was fishing quite tight clutches. It just sort of held, and just as the tip pulled down, I've picked up into it, and I knew instantly that it was one of the good ones. And I'll be honest, I thought it was him. It was the right sort of time. It was in a zone that he's known for getting caught from. So I've probably played it a bit gingerly. I've sort of just kept it moving, let it do what it wanted to do. I wasn't going to put too much pressure on it. It done me in a weed bed close in, so I think I had to go out in the boat. I had to go out in the boat, get over the top of it, eventually got it moving. A mega carp surfaced, arguably the very best carp that lives in the lake. It was a fish called the box. And yeah, I wasn't gutted. I'm never gutted to catch carp, but when you think you're playing the one that you really desire, I don't know, it mars the occasion a little bit. But I soon got my head back in the game. In fact, the bite alarm soon got my head back into the game. I've got the box in the net. I'm looking at it thinking, well, Aaron only caught it a few weeks ago at over 40 pounds. So I've probably got a 40 pounder here. And then my left hand rod has busted off. And I caught that mega fully scaled that I only caught a few weeks before. It's a relatively new fish for the lake. It's only been in there a few years. So I didn't weigh it. I got some pictures of it because that's when it all tied in quite nicely. Elliot was coming down to see me. The box is actually his favourite fish in there, one that he'd love to catch. And he always said to me, if you do get the box and I can get there, you know, please give me a call. But as it happens, he was coming down anyway. So it was like a proper planets align moment. Well, have I got a couple of special carp to show you. The carp have just turned from not doing anything to being mega active, and I am proper on them. I had a bite this morning and I landed what is arguably the best carp in the lake, which I'll show you in a minute. And as I've landed it, the other rod fished out in the same zone went off as well. It's actually a fish I caught a little while ago, but again, it's spectacular. It's 25, 26 pounds, a beautiful fully scaled mirror. And now I've got about 4 hours left of my session. We are in that time frame where James's gets caught. Just about every other carp in the lake has seen a hook this spring, but he still hasn't. All rods are poised. I feel like they're all fishing for him. Any bleep now, I'm on sort of tender hooks. I'm running around. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm that excitable, just thinking, what if? But until that happens, I've had a mega result. Let's have a look, shall we? That still wasn't quite the end of an amazing trip. I've now got 2 fish in the net. I've got the box, I've got this fully scaled. I'm in the water, about to do some water shots with the fully, and I've got my rods literally next to my head where they're poking out over the lake. And I've noticed that the middle rod is sort of pulled down. So I thought there might be weed on the line where the wind was smashing weed through, and I've sort of had a look, no weed there. Sort of glanced round Elliot because he was in the way. And yeah, sure enough, the bobbin was up tight, and then I could just hear a single bleep. Where my receiver was back up the back of the swim in my bivvy, I hadn't heard the few bleeps it had taken to get the bobbin to the top, and it was exactly the same as the fight with the box. As soon as I picked it up, it was slow, it was heavy, and I'm like, this has got to be him. Everything else has been out. This is James's. I think I even said it in the fight. Shit on it. Just in the water, and I noticed that my middle tip was much lower than the other 2, and it shouldn't have been. I promise I'll show you these fish in a minute. It's all going off. That's in weed. Or a snag. Oh. I thought it'd come off. Still might have done. fish on. It's just woken up. Very, very angry. Cleared the other rod, which is good. God, he's charging. I was only just saying, weren't I, with every bite now, you think it could be it. Conditions are so good. It's been such a rubbish spring. Weather's been all over the place. Only like 10 days ago, still getting frosts. And this feels like the first big weather change of the year. And it's certainly turned the fish on. It's not been all ideal though. First couple of nights, couldn't buy a bite. Fished 3 different swims to eventually, before they sort of let me know where they were, once I was on them, started catching quite quickly. The owner actually popped over to see me last night to show me the album of carp that he properly keeps on top of, and there is literally, I think, 5 fish in here that I've not caught. Got to be getting close, got to be. I don't think this is in though. Sorry about hitting you there, Elliot. It's one of them sorry, not sorry moments. Monkey's getting hot, but he's taking his scarf off. It's not him. I think everything I'm sort of convincing myself that it could be. Who cares? Just gotta keep getting bites. Could be a brace of 40s, this. It's not been out yet. It's another one that's not been out, funnily enough. Well, like I was saying, there's not many fish that haven't been out yet, and this is one of them. It's a fish called Vader, and it was last out, I think, in January at just under 40 pound. It'd be amazing to think he's over that way. Either way, he knows how to ruck. I've got the biggest brace of carp here I've ever had. This is mega. As it turns out, it got even sweeter because the box was £40.10, and the Vader, somewhat surprisingly, I can't remember now if it was £40.6 or £40.8, but yeah, over the moon. Perfect end, almost, to my spring campaign. Now let's have a look at the fully.
What about that for a proper, fully scaled? I'm not going to reweigh him. Like I say, I only caught him a few weeks ago, but he's 25 to 26 pound, proper special carp. But the best is yet to come. That could be one of the most epic GoPro returners ever. Oh my God. What we'll probably have to do, when you get blackthorn in your skin, the safest thing is to let the person nearest you cut that limb off so that the poison doesn't spread. And I'm the nearest person. I've got a little tracker knife. You're actually a bird? I could peck your arm off. Guess how? Black species of bird. My fault if I get you. Looked at it when he was sat properly, he's fucking wide. Right, it's got to come down
$39.2. Sure, you might help me? But I'll let you read it.
That's over.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Hang on, is it? I ain't zeroed it.
Yeah, of course I have.
£40.8. Yeah. Happy with that?
Get in. Yes. I know that this fish and the one that's still in the sling, they're both repeat captures, but it ain't every day you catch a brace of UK 40. So some people who watch this frowning, going, how can you get excited about a repeat capture? I get excited about any capture. 2 UK 40s. Yes. Be incredible if the boxer's lost weight now. It's £40, mate. If he grew into his shoulders, he'd be a 93 pounder. Look at that hump. Epic, epic. I love this carp. Pinhead. That's what it should be called. Well, known as Vader, without doubt one of the most unique carp I've ever caught. He's got the head of a 15 pounder, the body of a 50, and by the time you work out your average, you get £40.8. That'll do. Let's turn him round, have a look at the other side. Oh yeah, please, sure. Yeah. Cheers, mate. Here we go. A look at his other side as well. Proper character. The one I've still got to show you is even bigger and arguably the very best carp in here. This is special. Very special. Are you excited? I've caught it before and I'm excited. Such a cool carp. Such a cool carp. Certainly bigger than when I had him before. Let's have a look. Again, mate, I'll let you you read. Brace myself.
Pound 10.
There you go, I didn't lie, he was a bit bigger. He was caught about 3 weeks ago, so my guess is he's had a little sulk up, and unfortunately for him, he started eating. Found my little hook bait. What a carp, man. Oh, gnarly old thing. Blown away. A pair of 40-pounders, topped with the box. 40 £, 10. Honestly, it's one of the best carp I've ever caught. Oh, my arms are going already. Mwah. What a creature. Let's give you a little drink, have some pictures. When I saw this weather front come in, I thought something special could happen, but never in my wildest dreams did I expect to catch 2 40-pounders. Couple of hours left in the session. Who knows, there could be the ultimate ending and have James's as well. Let's aim for the stars and you might reach the moon. Whatever happens, pair of UK 40s in the morning, that'll do. Go and tell James's I'm nice. Mwah.
Right, I hope you enjoyed the film. We'd love to know what you thought of it, and you can use the comment section below to let us know. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, we would very much appreciate that. And if you would like to see more films just like this one, then you know where to go.